Good evening, everybody, and you're very welcome to this evening's event, which is a showcase of readings from the participants in a writing workshop called A Sense of Place, Discover Harold's Cross Through Creative Writing. This was a course run during February and March of this year. A group of 11 participants met up online on every Monday morning for a couple of hours for a period of 6 weeks. During that time, we were in the middle of a strict lockdown, and the course was a way of exploring our neighbourhood with different eyes and ears, of developing our discoveries through creative writing and sharing our findings. We looked at the hows and whys of writing about place, and we explored different aspects of the neighbourhood. We focused on place names, on features associated with the area over the years, on local history and on ecology. But above all, it was a way of meeting new people, of nurturing a sense of belonging in the community, and of having a bit of fun. All of the participants threw themselves into it with great enthusiasm, and this evening, 7 of them have agreed to share their work for this online event. The first reader is Celina McLaughlin.
Hello, everybody. I'm Celina, and I'm glad to be part of the festival. So I'm going to read a piece called Lifeline, and it's inspired by my walks through Harold's Cross. I think we all had a lot of them lately. So we're very lucky to live in an interesting area. So here we go. Lifeline. I plan to get to you whatever the weather, braving yellow to orange alerts of never happening snow. On other days, I venture out equipped with sunglasses paired with a face shield that make me feel like I'm in knight's armor, strengthened and frightened at the same time. You are the finishing point of my daily expedition and a new beginning. I see more, I hear more, I want more, once the first wave of your aroma stops to distract me. Pickles is worth wasting my time. On another day, the green fox is my encounter, and many a path leads me to my provider or even an old bakery. It took me a while to master the balancing act of maneuvering a piece of plastic to finalize our transaction while holding a cup not to be spilled and keeping my offspring close and other humans distant. Take away only, it says in big letters on our only existing community hub. Take away our sorrows to go. Seesaw, an unexpected glare of sunshine on my skin and the first gush of substance in my veins make me feel dizzier than my ever-swinging sun. Mummy, do you know our sun is not the only star in the world? I know, we know. As I squint my eyes, I see others orbiting around with vessels of precious liquid, clinging onto them more firmly than onto their phones. Youngster, senior, tryst or beaming, power walking or meandering, like a gazelle or a mongrel. I am, you are, we are in a pleasure garden, threatened and adored by us, Bod Planola, and a dozen residents' associations. Collective caffeine rush is the remedy to the ever-shrinking radius of our habitat. 2K, 5K, 20K, I turn my 9-centimeter couplet in my hands. A blissful attack of wind awakens us further, with the sharpness of hailstones, soothed by cherry blossom petals on my face. I am the hunter and the gatherer when I bring my other half some of the still hot liquid in a disposable capsule. Is it me or the bruise aroma that makes him turn around from his screen? There you are. So thanks very much for listening. I hope you will enjoy the rest of the festival, and a big thank you to Amanda for mentoring. And our next reader now is Bairbre Sámh. Over to you, Bairbre.
Thanks, Celine. That was wonderful. I'm just going to read a short essay in answer to a letter written by a Victorian gentleman about the Hards Cross Park. So, dear sirs, how times change, yet some elements endure. Like the Hards Cross Park. So much has changed in the past 100 years since you wrote, things beyond your imagining. Indoor toilets, hot and cold water in every home, a house, a car for every household, usually two, women wearing what they want, owning not only their own homes, but their own businesses, their own cars. They vote now, and they call to account those who abused them in the past. Yet still, unchanging old institutions protect and hide their shameful deeds from the public gaze. Lots of things are better. More equal opportunities for those less advantaged, yet inequality remains a stalwart of our capitalist society. Cholera, smallpox, and polio are eradicated, yet new plagues have arrived to tie us to our homes. Curtailing our now cheap travel, our very freedom is curtailed to move from place to place. Yet the Hards Cross Park persists just as you hoped it would. Brighter than ever, a joy and a refuge for us all, rich and poor, old and young. And we throng there still, clad in our clothes of many colours and styles, but always wearing our masks that cover our faces, not from modesty, but from fear of infection. Yet we chat, meet neighbours, we drink tea and coffee from disposable cardboard cups, our only social interaction in these days of contagion. It's all happening in our oasis of the Hards Cross Park. Yours sincerely, etc. I also got carried away and wrote some haiku type poems. So I'll just read those out now if I can find them. So they're all based around the canal. Nodding daffodils outside my window, loud traffic. Hailstones clashing, fire flickering, Netflix soothing. Thick bushy tail wags, heavy head on my lap, companionship. Water silky blue, leaves lacy green, empty beer cans. Thank you everyone. I hope you enjoy the festival, and special thanks to Amanda. And now welcome to Tony McDermott. He's next. Thank you.
Thank you, Bairbre. That was lovely. And I'm Tony McDermott, and I'm going to read a piece that I wrote about a wet Wash Wednesday in Mount Jerome this year. The pandemic provides the grave grey tint, but the senses are vitalised and cheered by the flash of colourful tulips and daffodils at Betty and Des Flynn's flower shop, and the street traders, Mandy and Clodagh, licensed by Acts of Parliament and regulated by ancient fair and street trading laws. Up the avenue, past the small Islamic plot, to the silent bridge over the Poddle at the Stone Yard. The innocent river, made truant through multiple iterations of now redundant industrial engineering, is monitored by lights and infrared cameras, reminding us of the lethal surge that left Filipino-born Cecilia de Jesus, mother Irish citizen, and hospice worker screaming for help for 10 minutes that these very waters engulfed her Parnell Road basement home, bringing her to eternal rest just 10 years ago. Stonemasons have an array of long-lasting headstones on display. Legacy of Leo Brough and Sons. Decapitated Mount Jerome House on the hill, echoing the whispers of United Irishmen, John Keogh, a papist by God, and Wolfe Tone, a Protestant, together seeking the right for all Catholics to have a vote. Emancipation plotted in the cemetery. 300,000 souls have been laid to rest in these grounds since Matthew Pollock parted with his infant daughters here in 1836. Cremation fires commenced with the new millennium. This Ash Wednesday says no ashes on foreheads. Repentance, once more invisible. Remember, man, that thou art dust, and unto dust. Kivnia ar, go crehu, agus godilitu ar an grey. COVID purgatory reigns. Stay at home. The last call, de profundis, the first circle, the dead. The road, more grey ashes than we can stand. But now the magic vaccine. One jab is all you need. Johnson & Johnson, so good, they named it twice. Next door, over the wall in the distance, the hospice mortuary. Mother Mary Aikenhead, born into the Anglican Church, founded the Religious Sisters of Charity to take care of the sick and impoverished. Our Lady's Hospice and Specialist Care Services for people with a range of needs from rehabilitation to end-of-life care. How bad is the old fella? Sure, the poor creator, he was anointed on Thursday. Extreme unction, food for the journey. Can be administered to Catholics who have reached the age of reason and who are terminally ill, mortally wounded, or those awaiting execution. Holy Mary and the guardian angels atop many inscribed stones. The angels have wings. To get them here or to escape. And here is Orphans Walk. The faceless, the nameless, the innocent, the blameless and free. What's that like to be? Motherland, cradle me, close my eyes, lullaby me to sleep. Keep me safe, lie with me, stay beside me, don't go. Don't you go. Well, apologies to the great Natalie Merchant for that finish. So next up is Michelle Walshe.
Thanks, Tony, and thanks to Amanda for this lovely course, which I really enjoyed. And I'm going to read two short pieces inspired by writing prompts during the course. So the first one was inspired by the week we studied place names, and it's a few lines on the place name Cruz del Campo, which was on an old map that we studied, and it seemed to just leap out of the page at me. It was written in a bigger font. I don't know if it was because of that, but this is what it inspired. Cruz del Campo. Amidst the static functional English names like Kenilworth and Westfield, reminiscent of barracks, garrisons, and soldiers, these musical words, Cruz del Campo, rise and sing from the page. What are they doing there, these hot fragments of Spain in the heart of cold, colonizing England? So many images flit across my mind: crucifixion, fields, war graveyards with their symmetrical lines of white crosses, imposition of order on the chaos of loss. It makes me think of pilgrimages, the Camino de Santiago, the Via Doloroso in Jerusalem, the Stations of the Cross, Lent, sacrifice, denial. But mostly it brings to mind the sun, the Spanish sun. I think of the time before, sitting outside cafes, cold beers on hot days, the tankard sweating, water pooling, soaking the beer mat, tapas, tortillas, olives and salsa, washed down with golden San Miguel or Cruz Campo, amber liquid infused with the color of the Spanish sun. And the next one is a writing prompt inspired by writing from the point of view of an animal. So I chose the heron, which I pass every day on my lockdown walks. The heron. I witnessed so much death, especially in springtime. Yesterday, I counted 10 mute balls of fur on the glassy surface of the water, moving in a V shape behind their mother. A gull overhead, wings outstretched, a V shape in the sky. He swooped and snatched, a vanishing in seconds. In the heat of mating season, duck corpses float by. I move when I see them. They disturb me. Their lifeless webbed feet flapping to one side, useless now, but evidence of a lost duel between drakes, fighting over a female. If a park warden does not come, the sweet smell of decay cloys the air as they rot. I watch children shriek as they throw bread and place their boats in the water to play. I watch their mothers and their minders sip coffee from paper cups, watching over their charges, vigilant, ever vigilant, because in the midst of life, there is always death. That's me, and I'd like to introduce Vincent Cahill, who's going to read the next piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, and of course, thanks to Amanda for facilitating this opportunity for us to share our inspiration from a wonderful writing course. I'd like to take you now on a journey for the senses around our neighbourhood. And this piece is called Harold's Cross, a sensory walk in February. The incessant hum of traffic is a constant in the city. The deep diesel growl of a bus as it passes, empty. The high-pitched whine of a scooter. A snatch of a radio chat show as a delivery rider cycles past. An ambulance races along the canal as its siren wails its distress and signals trouble for somebody. My footsteps are soft on the dry pavement, a pleasant and welcome contrast to squelching through the murky, rain-drenched streets of previous days. At Windsor Terrace, I'm surprised by what seems like a whiff of woodbine from a garden. A fellow walker allows me space to pass, and the smell of his takeaway coffee is a pleasant stimulus. A smoker dawdles in front of me, acrid, dry tobacco fumes. The thought registers, what else might be carried on the air currents? The swans have made a toilet of the towpath, but the farmyard smell is not unpleasant and preferable to the ubiquitous dog poo that seems to have mushroomed everywhere during the lockdown. As I turn a corner near Adelaide Road, munching on a juicy apple, I get the distinctive sweet smell of marijuana. Could somebody really be smoking a joint at 10:30 in the morning? Whatever gets you through the day, I guess. At Bloomfield Avenue, a bird shrills a long melodious note. It reminds me of how builders long ago would whistle at a pretty girl. They'd be arrested and shamed for that today. But there's no pretty girl about, only me, and the unseen winged creature ignores such nonsense anyway and sings its heart out. There is the yakety yak of an aggressive magpie as he stakes his territorial claim in a nearby garden, and the shrieks of the herring gulls as they swarm an unfortunate duck on the canal and steal its hard-won snack, and then scrap and bicker intensely over the remnants. Urban graffiti is everywhere. The artist, known as Mazer, has taken up residence. His influence is pervasive. Bee, my honey, entreats a small black and amber figure near the canal as he proffers a single red rose. Another day, I spotted him at Effra Road, where he had sprouted wings. Be free was his message there. He's like a little pop-up mindfulness guru for the community, with his suggested antidotes for the lockdown blues, as he encourages us to be strong, let it be, and be happy. At Emmett Bridge, somebody has spray painted the mantra, good vibes, I wish. There was also a faceless girl with smouldering eyes painted on the bridge, since removed, only to reappear on the side of a house at Longwood, and with a pink halo, where David Attenborough and his bird also make quite a splash. Bright primary colours make a welcome contrast to the bleak midwinter all about. Front doors and gardens seem to reflect personalities. Some are shiny and well kept, almost imploring the passerby to look at me. Others, shoddy and unkempt, as if silently willing you to look away, nothing to see here. Some people even decorate their wheelie bins. Others name their houses in memory of a favorite place or person. Avalon, Alma, Cherry Garden, Glandore. Summer tables and chairs are scattered about in some gardens. Hope springs eternal, but I'll be taking my coffee indoors for a while yet, thank you. At Darley Street, a black and white cat curled up on a windowsill gives me the eyes, stretches, yawns, and meows as I pass. Nearby, a burglar alarm screams for attention. The business sign over the door states, volumize. A lively-looking young greyhound with a bright red collar adorns a junction box near the park. She looks ready to race. What a pity that her track has been decommissioned. Inside the park, there are squeals of delight from the playground and the splish-splash of water as some children test out their welly boots in a puddle. Boisterous young lads are making more noise than necessary to attract the attention of some chatty teenage girls who are trying hard not to notice them. Too cool for school. A power tool buzzes near Leinster Road. Could somebody be dickeying up the house? The minister will not be pleased. That's a no-no. Some Christmas lights are still to be seen in gardens at night, like little flickers of hope in these dark days and nights. At the school, a banner informs us that the Sisters of St. Clair are praying for you. Good to know. A sign on a door near Tivoli exhorts us to eat, drink, and be merry. Upbeat advice for downbeat days. And then my thoughts are disturbed by the mildly irritating ringtone and buzz of my mobile phone, and the sensory spell is broken. Thank you for listening, and I'd now like to introduce Maria Halpin, who's going to read her piece for you. Maria.
Hello, everybody, and thank you very much, Vincent. It's going to be one walk after another because my piece is called Follow the Quiet. It's how a city or a neighbourhood reveals itself differently at night. With streets laid bare, except perhaps for lone dog walkers or the silent presence of an urban fox, the world feels altered in the darkness. The cool night air and the empty streets become the perfect backdrop for excitement and uncertainty. There's also something which appeals to me about having the place to myself when darkness descends. The nightscape seems less cluttered, making it easier to hone in, perfecting the art of noticing. I have recently developed a fondness for nocturnal rambling in my own urban village of Harold's Cross, but it was daytime walking that led me to this pursuit in the first place. I had walked the legs off myself during the various lockdowns last year. Under the circumstances, I was satisfied that Harold's Cross was a good launching spot for the 5-kilometre distance permitted. Living here allowed for scenic walks along the Dodder in either direction, many trips around a variety of local parks, and exploration of back lanes. Shortcuts were discovered, and I navigated roads named after distant Irish towns, Clonfert, Lismore, Cahill, and others named after mountains such as Ben Bulben and Sperrin. What would have been less remarkable in normal times became interesting and striking. A walk as far as Old St. Mary's Church in Crumlin provided a romantic and impressive sighting of this beautifully restored church with its medieval tower, early 18th century doorcase and old graveyard. Mount Jerome Cemetery, even closer to home, was another eye-opener. Armed with a map of graves of historical interest, which I sourced from Mount Jerome's website, I was able to add a touch of detective work to my repertoire. Here I explored Yew Walk, Archbishop's Walk, Drummond's Walk, searching to locate the graves of Thomas Davis, A.E. Russell, Jack B. Yeats, and more. I was quietly pleased with my ingenuity spending this time. However, as the pandemic endured and restrictions persisted into 2021, I had exhausted all avenues. The time had come to shake things up. Overlooking the bend on Clairville Road from my landing window, I had started to notice the comings and goings of a particular fox late into the evening. This fox, light-footed and watchful, but also curious, became the inspiration for me to start my walking habit after dark. You could say that she encouraged me to pursue the art of noticing under a different light. Noticing the night sky, for example, like on February 26th, when I struck gold at precisely 21:40 and came across a very large waxing gibbous moon shining skyward. That night, the beautiful moon, all full and celestial, shone like a magical burst of encouragement. It provided a feeling of pure delight starting my walk. Despite light pollution from the high-pressure orange sodium streetlights, the splendor of the moon shone through. I was transported to times past when I'd found myself under a dark night sky on a moonlit country lane, or stood at the water's edge to see its reflection, shimmering. Discovering this moon, it struck me that even in the city, there is moonlight to be enjoyed. On turning left at Clairville into Larkfield Grove, the street lighting changes to a plain white glow. The place name, displayed in English and Irish, sounds even more eloquent in the Irish translation of Gearan Achana Fushoga. It is said that the larks or Fushoga of Harold's Cross have long departed. Nonetheless, they have left their mark with many streets named Larkfield Gardens, Avenue Park and Grove. Here the roads are narrow, laden with cars on either side. The atmosphere appears darker and somewhat mysterious. In February, hydrangea stems, dry and brittle from last summer's blooming, stood taut in front gardens. Silhouetted in the dark black In the darkness, black metal gates and fences from the original 1940s are still in place. Bent over, leaning in and out of pathways, they look like bony things dancing in the night. Some gardens still had Christmas fairy lights hung on shrubs. In one house, there was a Christmas tree on view through the front window. Perhaps a rebellious stand being made in the face of a sense of powerlessness caused by the pandemic. Looking towards houses with closed curtained windows, I imagine people gathered in comfortable sitting rooms coming together, watching TV late into the evening. This image makes me feel safe somehow and serves as a reminder that ultimately we are all members of a community. Passing along Harold's Cross Road, where many ghost landscapes are located, a nostalgia creeps in. The site where once stood the classic cinema with its modern brick facade is now a sprawling building site. One enduring memory of this cinema takes me back to the long hot summer of 1984. That summer on balmy nights around 11:30 p.m, my flatmates and I would emerge from our Kenilworth Square basement flat, all dressed up in borrowed theatre costumes, and walk the short distance to the Classic for the screening of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Singing and laughing throughout this highly interactive musical, we felt as if we were in Hollywood. These nights, songs like Damn It, Janet and The Time Warp have long been silenced. No trace remains of the Classic. Now, as a building site for proposed Elmville apartment complex, I notice behind the hoarding how the terrain is excavated, dug deep to make way for new beginnings. Heading home along my road, I am sometimes treated to another sighting of my particular fox, stealthily crossing in and out of front gardens ahead. For her, the night is still young. For me, I've had my fill, having followed the quiet of the evening, marking out time in my territory. So that's my piece, and I want to thank Amanda for hosting the course. It was just wonderful, and it was great. It was a great introduction to creative writing for me anyway. Next is Sheila Handelman.
Thank you, Maria. That was really lovely, really. And my piece will tell you what I think of the Harold's Cross community. It's titled A Paean to Community. A couple of months after I set up home in Harold's Cross, I was sitting in the Black Apple Cafe, now called Brew, confidently expounding to a friend about what a shame it was that Harold's Cross could never be a community, or even a proper village. After all, I said, it's just one arterial road into the city with heavy traffic constantly moving. Children will never be allowed to cross this road, and if there is no freedom for children, how can there possibly be a community? I droned on, probably boring my friend half to death. Finishing our coffee, we walked out of the cafe on that dank, diesel-choked afternoon, straight into what can only be described as a tsunami of buggies and prams and toddlers coming from all directions. There were school kids, teenagers, couples and singletons, mums and dads, grannies and granddads of all varieties on both sides of the road. They were laughing and chattering as they streamed into the little park tucked between the two arms of Harold's Cross Road. It was like that Lowry painting, Going to the Match, only with prams. My mouth dropped open. The penny dropped in. Every one of them knew exactly where they were going and why, because someone had told them that there was a Christmas tree lighting ceremony going on in the park. Why didn't I know about this? How did they know about this? So I asked some questions and found some answers. I found that there are committees, two in particular, the Harold's Cross Village Community Council and the Harold's Cross Festival Committee. The teams that run these are prepared to give a great deal of their time and thought to this neighborhood and keep it ticking over as a vibrant and rapidly changing community, diverse and inclusive, with all that entails from endless administrative tasks to cultural events, and keeping everyone informed while they're at it. These are no dry old-style residence committees. They are so much more than that. They are chaired and made up of uncommonly dedicated people with obviously good hearts. In just the few years that I've lived here, they have organized art exhibitions, talks, writing classes, guided walks, musical performances and concerts, Bloomsday celebrations, commemorations, and theater productions. There are several artists in residence, writers, painters, filmmakers, poets, musicians, people with expertise in any field you might care to think of, prepared to share their time and skills with others in their neighborhood. They have developed HX Grow, a gardening initiative with highly visible success. The local generosity is huge and humbling. We often get asked to name our top 10 favorite books or performances, be they albums or concerts or plays. It can be almost impossible to choose, but one play high on my own list is Jocks O' Daly, performed by Phelim Drew. It was brilliant and organized by Harold's Cross as part of the festival program for free. Another highlight was the music of Eddie Reader, Oisin Morgan, and others. They sang and played their songs as part of the Harold's Cross 1916 commemorations. The Fairground attraction singer has family connections to the local Irish volunteers of the Rising, but no connection was required to enjoy all the performances that night. The concerts in the park during festival time have been fabulous and enjoyed by everyone, with many of the more rhythmically blessed inspired to dance along on the green. The festival gets better and better each year, with families coming from far afield, having heard about this annual gem from the locals. It was held online last year, and this year will probably be the same. Rather than abandoning it, the challenges of this pandemic seem to have brought out even more creativity from the organizers. Be sure to check in and see what's on offer. As for the park itself, it's charming. Its present layout was designed in the 19th century by William Shepherd, who also designed St. Stephen's Green. Today, it is beautifully looked after by someone who clearly loves it. A close eye is being kept on planning matters. If there is anyone out there who thinks they might sneak in an application under the radar for planning or change of use, forget about it. People who care are watching out. They can't win every battle, but we should all be appreciative of their efforts to manage what looks, to me at least, like the thoughtless piecemeal development that Dublin City Council go in for these days in their zeal to provide more and more houses at any cost. But some of our representatives in the City Council make great efforts for Harold's Cross. Maybe it's because it's obvious they are dealing with people who are willing to go the extra mile. So we should give a shout out to them too. Between them, our committees embrace everything from deciphering the Bus Connect's plans to the position of Mars in the sky at night. There is a battle afoot with Bus Connects, and we should all be concerned. The plan for a bus corridor in Harold's Cross is very controversial, to say the least. It's a travesty or a good thing, a major inconvenience or one well worth the disruption. Take your pick. Use whatever word you like. If this plan goes ahead, the ripple will affect us all. Our thanks and support go to those who have entered the fray on our behalf. Over the past year, local people have pulled out all the stops to make sure everyone's needs are looked after during the pandemic. A list was drawn up and distributed of people prepared to do shopping and small tasks for older folks who might be afraid to leave their homes during this time. Harold's Cross is involved in an age-friendly initiative, which, among other things, involves keeping an eye on street lighting and footpaths and informing us of burglaries and acts of vandalism so we can be vigilant. But this particular offer to the elderly and those in need was separate to that initiative. It came from the heart and speaks to the heart of our community. There is much, much more going on here, from sports clubs to knitting groups to a tropical fish association. These things don't organize themselves, you know, and we are all privileged to have and owe thanks to the people who care. This is what's called a community. Last week, when I was finally able to sit outside the Brew Cafe again in the spring sunshine with my friend, we had quite a different conversation to the one we had that December afternoon 5 years ago. And that's my piece. And I'd also like to thank Amanda, and Vincent is going to read another piece. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Sheila, for that really beautiful piece about local community. My next piece is called What's in a Name? The towns and villages of Ireland are dotted with Kennedy Parks, Pearse Streets, Our Lady's Terraces, and more than a smattering of Saints' Gardens. Just choose your preferred patriot, saint, or deity, and you're bound to find a homage to him or her somewhere or other in the form of a tidy little cul-de-sac or a council estate, and maybe a nearby grotto too. Generic main streets, John Streets, Mary Streets, terraces, and crescents also abound. And of course, the liberator, O'Connell, gets pride of place in many of our towns and cities. In Harold's Cross, where I now live, the usual suspects are well represented. But what does it take to have a street named in your honor or memory? Does size or shape matter? Or the finished standard and color of the buildings? What about the quality of tenant that takes up residency long after the demise of the person after whom the street is named? I remember once being on holiday at the Carnival in Rio de Janeiro. As I wandered out from my hotel near Copacabana Beach one evening, I arrived at the grandly named Avenida Princesa Isabel. It was full of strip clubs. Up near the Maxall, Ryan and Fitzpatrick are remembered as rows of cottages. How quaint. Windsor Avenue and De Vere Terrace near Emmett Bridge both hint at former glories, as do Kingsland Parade, Bloomfield, and Prince Arthur Terrace. But are they merely delusions of grandeur? Graffiti, litter, and human detritus abound in some places. Mount Drummond Avenue, Court, Square, and Place, yes, 4 for the price of 1, are surely a nod to Thomas Drummond, who was the British Undersecretary to Ireland until his death in 1840. In Mount Jerome, his mausoleum and granite vault, which would surely require planning permission today, is the biggest and tallest in the cemetery, as it towers above the surrounding graves. Even in death, it seems that size matters, as he remains master of all he surveys. Elsewhere in this unique and sprawling cemetery, with its Victorian tea rooms, the paths have been aptly named. Thankfully, there is no Roper's Row or Hangman's Lane, although I'm sure those interred range across all walks of life and death. The cemetery was infamously designated by our city fathers as a green space for the good citizens of Harold's Cross to enjoy. Go figure. Further down Harold's Cross Road, Emmett Street, near where the patriot lived, is obvious enough. But what of nearby Darley and Fitzgerald? What deeds did these fellows, or females, do that warranted the naming of streets in their honor? What was their long ago claim to fame? And then there is the lattice-like network of streets simply referred to as Harold's Cross cottages, where anonymity is almost guaranteed. I'd hate to be a postman new to the job. Apparently, the cottages may have originally been artisan dwellings built by the Quakers, tailors, bakers, candlestick makers, and the like, easily located by their individual trades. Nowadays, there are neat window boxes, designer interiors, and even some roof gardens as gentrification takes hold. Further afield and over the bridge near the Harold House, we find Costello's cottages. But there are no cottages remaining there now, just a gated dead-end alley. But still, the name lives on. Would Mr. or Mrs. Costello have been pleased? Nearby, Hen and Chicken Lane has disappeared also and is now consigned to local folklore. Even the chickens have departed or gone home to roost, their place taken by the herring gulls in recent years. Wesley Place on Clanbrassil Street, the former Jewish quarter, seems incongruously out of place, and Mr. Leonard may have sold up and retired, his former shop now a halal food store, but the corner still bears his name, with a lovely cafe bar now added for good measure. Nearby, a plaque informs us that Leopold Bloom was, in Joyce's imagination at least, born on this eclectic and ever-changing street. Down on South Circular, who was Raymond or Greenville? Washington leads to Noshington, but which Washington are we referring to here? The city, the state, or George himself? And why did Daniel have a street named after him, while across the road, Donovan only merited a lane? At nearby Harty Place, there is stiff competition among the pretty whitewashed cottages for the most attractive door furniture as the residents make their own mark. In Portobello, Warren Street seems aptly named, snuggled in among quiet streets of red brick terraced houses that could be straight from the set of Coronation Street. And so many street names seem to have changed or vanished over the years. What of Liverpool Road, Rosegrove, or Peachmount? Is it the ultimate insult to erase or change a street name when the named person no longer has a means of protest or right of reply? Nearer to home, even Zuma is remembered, almost as an afterthought, on a small, neat terrace of red bricked houses adjacent to Mount Drummond. Perhaps he'd have expected a larger estate. You could just imagine the conversation between Thomas and Jacob. My empire was bigger than yours. Limekiln Lane, previously home to some of the Pym's cotton factory workers, is surely a nod to a long forgotten agricultural and milling heritage in the area. But riddle me this: how did Kenilworth Bowling Club end up in Grosvenor Square instead of in Kenilworth Square? Maybe some of the village elders hold the keys to its gates and to that little secret. Allegedly, some streets, squares, and estates were named after the engineers that designed them. Nowadays, there are strict naming protocols that developers must follow and agree with the city council. Thank God for that. As for me, well, there is a St. Vincent Street nearby, but I'm no saint, so house number 2 will just have to do. Now, if you'll bear with me, I have one more piece to read for you. I started this evening with a journey for the senses, and I'd like to finish now by inviting you to join me on a bus journey. And this is an ode to the 16 bus. The 16 bus, a frequent sight in Harold's Cross, carries people across the city from the airport on the north side to Ballantyre on the south side, and then back again on an almost endless loop from early morning until late at night. Some use it just for a short hop or a free ride if you hold the appropriate pass. Others, but very few apart from the driver, use it for the full route. And even the drivers often change shift at Summerhill or Parnell Square in the city centre. A woman once told me that she used to go to the airport on the 16 bus just to buy the newspaper and then come back home to Harold's Cross. A day out of sorts. Could this become the new form of COVID-era travel? On the buses, but without Reg Varney. How many people use the 16 bus every day? How many drivers work the route? How many buses are in the fleet? How many stops are on the route? And now we hear that the city fathers intend to remove the 16 bus route and consign it to history, all in the name of progress. It's a funny old world, but nobody is laughing. Just the other day, I saw a bus bedecked in the colours of Bohemians FC passing through Harold's Cross. Are the gypsies trying to infiltrate the area? Or maybe just putting it up to their arch Southside rivals, Shamrock Rovers? Will we see buses retaliating in the Hoops colours next? I used to be able to see the bus stop from my kitchen window, and if I peered hard enough, the expected arrival time on the computerized display. I could even make eye contact at a distance with some passengers on the top deck. Then Focus Ireland put a building in the way. So now I have to engage with the Dublin Bus app. A friend told me that the arrival times displayed at the stops are not always reliable. Having seen 2 expected buses disappear from the board one day, she berated the driver when 2 16 buses finally arrived together 20 minutes later. The driver smiled and told her that they had discovered that the buses were less likely to get lost when they sent 2 of them out together. What glimpses of other lives we can see from the bus, either from the upper deck looking into people's gardens or windows, or just observing the little dramas and vignettes that play out among the passengers. An old man down at heel and down on his luck is refused carriage by an assertive driver. A drunken woman snarls at the world as she smashes her vodka bottle against the driver's cab. A bunch of lads in sky blue Dublin jerseys coming home from Croke Park and singing their hearts out. The Owl Triangle, with a wily old Meath man conducting the choir. An elderly lady dressed up in her finest for a night out in Beaumont, maybe the bingo. Younger ladies chattering excitedly with anticipation as they head off for a night out on Camden Street. Helpful drivers shouting out place names or landmarks for backpacker tourists arriving from the airport. Luggage and suitcases stashed on and under the storage racks, but no bags allowed upstairs. So how are you supposed to keep an eye on your belongings? A major disembarkation near the Spire in O'Connell Street. Sweeping around the corner at the Bleeding Horse, turn left to go right. Contraflow bus lanes, countdown timers at pedestrian lights, only in Dublin. One rainy night, a friendly French bus driver waited while I sprinted 50 yards to catch the bus at Anger Street. "Congratulations, mon ami," he smiled as I boarded. "You should go to the Olympics." Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. They were most wonderful readings, and there's some of these pieces I haven't heard before, or haven't heard in their entirety. They're just gorgeous. And I think you have created such a vivid sense of place, and it's a really special record of this extraordinary time in our collective experience. And I hope that these, the work that you've done, which has been enormous, will be available at some stage on the website, which I'm going to, I will keep people posted about that. So just a huge thanks to all the participants. It's been such a pleasure spending a few weeks with you, and really this February and March were kind of a highlight of a bizarre period of lockdown. Thank you so much for that. Thanks also to Harold's Cross Village Community Council, Dublin City Council, Tony McDermott, and to Jack Murray for their support in getting this the writing course off the ground. So that's it, I think. Goodbye from all of us, and thank you for tuning in, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of the festival.